All right, we are live. Welcome to today's episode, guys. Today we're going to be talking about how to greet someone like a native speaker. I have actually got a little bit of news. I'm going to be teaching Chinese people via the app WeChat, and so this is one of the first classes that I'm going to be doing for the Chinese group of English learners on WeChat. And that's why I decided that I might give it a run through first with you guys. It's a Thursday night, so let's get into it. But I guess first, give me a thumbs up or a love heart, whatever you want. If you can hear me all right, just let me know that the audio is working okay. If you feel like giving the video a share, give it a share, because that'll boost it a little bit so that other people can see it right now. So I'm just going to quickly give Aussie English a share on my page just so that my parents can watch, guys. You know, you're never too old to improve your English. But also tell me where you guys are from. Where are you watching from today? I know that most of you will be in Australia, but I bet there's quite a few of you who are also overseas watching at, I don't know, some other crazy hour that isn't 7 p.m. Anyway, all right, now that we've established the audio is all good, you guys are sweet, we can get straight into the content. Today I wanted to be talking to you again, as I said at the start, about how to greet someone like a native. Obviously, we've kind of got like two different settings when it comes to greeting people. You've got people that you know, so people like your family, you know, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your aunties, your grandparents. And then you've got people you don't know, so strangers. So, well, I guess too, with people that you do know, you've obviously got also not just family, but you've got workers, you've got people that you might train with, whether it's doing karate or jiu-jitsu or tennis or something like that. And so we have these different relationships in English that we can, I guess, they're just a little bit different depending on who the person is, how you know them, if they're older than you, if they're younger than you. And so that's why I wanted to do today's episode on greetings. So let's get to it. First, obviously, we'll start with how to say hello and hi with people that you don't know. So the first section here is going to be for strangers, people you don't know. So obviously you can say hi, hey, and hello. I'm not really a fan of hi and hello. Hi is the kind of thing that I would use if I was kind of surprised or shocked a little bit, like, oh, hi. So maybe if I bumped into someone in the street, I might say, oh, hi, sorry, you know, like it's kind of a little short, abrupt one. It's not what I would say to someone that I was about to start an in-depth conversation with. Hello is a little bit different. Again, same kind of thing as hi, where you might be like, oh, hello, if you were sort of shocked. You might use this, Americans might use this, but personally, I feel like this is what I would use on the phone. If I pick up the phone and started chatting or just wanted to see who was there, whether it was a stranger or someone that I knew, I would say, hello, Peter speaking, hello. If I entered a room and I didn't know if anyone was there, so say it was a dark room at night, or I knock on a door and the door opens, and I might be like, hello, is anyone there? So it's that idea of you don't know who's there, you might use hello to kind of check. So I guess it's kind of like a greeting where you're verifying if someone's there, right? I wouldn't use that so much with if I met someone, whether I knew them or not in the street. I don't think I would really start with hello. It's a bit formal. So anyway, you can give it a go. People are going to understand you. A word about g'day. G'day I would use, and g'day is the kind of phrase that only Australians use when they're greeting someone. So again, Americans, English people, South Africans, they'll all understand what g'day is. They'll know, oh, he's Australian. But this is something that I would definitely use a little bit to emphasize the fact that I'm Australian, but also it's just something that I naturally end up doing, and it is a little less formal. So if you do this with people you don't know, there's not necessarily anything wrong with it. People aren't going to get offended, but if they're people who have an elevated social status above you that you don't know, so people are in a formal situation at work or something, you may not want to use g'day in those kinds of situations. Although I think if you're an ESL learner, someone who's learning English as a second language, no one is ever going to be offended to the point of being angry. They might just think to themselves, oh, he's just trying to be more Australian, you know? So those are the brief ones. When we want to get into some more complicated kind of greetings, you can say, how do you do? But this I say with sort of a pinch of salt, with a grain of salt. I would never say, how do you do? This is just beyond formal. Like it's up there with just, I don't even know what it's with. Probably using sir and madam to refer to people that you've just met. It's just really, really high level formality, and I just don't think that most people you're ever going to meet, even if in informal situations, would say, how do you do, unless they were someone who is in the royal family. Maybe the Queen might say that to you, how do you do, and maybe you'd say that to the Queen, but I would never use that. A better version that's still polite is, how are you? How are you? How are you? You can say, how are you? That's the sort of polite version. Again, fine with strangers. How are you? You're just asking, are you okay? Are you fine? Are you well? Are you going all right? You can also kind of contract it down into just, how are ya? How are ya? How are ya? You can say, how are ya going? Or how are you going? How are you going? And you can contract that even further to, how you going? And so I think it's kind of a pattern that appears a lot in English. The more contracted it gets, how are you going, how are you going, how are you going, the more kind of friendly it gets. So I think English speakers, you know, just off the top of my head here, the more contracted it is, that's how I would speak in a friendly setting with people that I'm really comfortable with. And so when you start doing that with people, even strangers, it just brings a slightly more friendly atmosphere to the conversation. So if you walked up to someone you didn't know, especially, for example, if it was someone older than me and they walked over to me and said, "G'day, how are you, mate?" I would see that as, oh wow, okay, this is a friendly setting. Instantly, I would know, okay, I'm on, you know, level playing field. This guy sees me as a friend. And yeah, it's all good. I would just chat to him probably a little more openly than if he walked up and said, "Hello, how do you do?" If he did that, I'd feel a bit awkward, like, I don't know how to read this situation. Is it sort of like a formal situation? What does he want? Like, is he after directions, or, you know, is he after a chat? I just wouldn't know how to read that. As well as, yeah, if someone said to me, "G'day, mate, how you going?" I'd be like, oh, I'm going to chat to this guy. So that's a good one. How are you going? How you going? How you going? Yeah, that's a good one. How is it going? That's sort of another variation. You can use this with strangers. How is it going? And again, how is it going? How's it going? You can use, you know, these different contractions. It's up to you guys. The more contracted it is, the more friendlier it sort of comes across as. So the more you say, how's it going? Instead of, how is it going? The more it sounds a little friendlier. Once you've gotten past that point, you might say, I'm Pete, or my name's Pete. I'd probably just say, I'm Pete. G'day, how's it going? I'm Pete. So if you're in some kind of formal setting at work and you were introducing yourself to people you don't know, I'd just say, g'day, how's it going? My name's Pete. And instantly it gives off a friendly vibe. So if that's what you're going for, even with strangers, it's 100% fine. Once someone's introduced themselves to you, you might say, nice, pleasure to meet you, or pleased to meet you. So you can use any of those with to meet you. Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm pleased to meet you. Any of those are fine. Again, that's obviously the sort of thing you would use when it's the first time that you've met someone. Hi, I'm Pete. Hey, Pete. I'm Sally. Nice to meet you, Sally. Nice to meet you too, Pete. So that's a good sort of formal, greeting and introduction there. Introduction. Getting a little more friendly, you might say likewise, meaning if someone said to you, nice to meet you, as well as, you know, you're feeling the same thing, you can just say, yeah, likewise, as in, I feel the same way. Likewise. Or you could say, you too, or just, yeah, pleasure. It's a pleasure. Pleased to meet you as well. Any of those are fine, and they'd be the typical way that you would refer or reply to someone who's just said that they were pleased to meet you. So from here, let's talk a little bit about small talk. If I was chatting to someone who I didn't know, it can get to that point as soon as you've introduced yourself and they've introduced themselves. So you walk up to them, hey, hi, hello, g'day, how are you going? How's it going? How are you? Once you get past that point and then you say, I'm Pete and you are, and they say, I'm Sally, nice to meet you, Pete, nice to meet you, Sally. That's where the conversation can take a bit of a dive. So that's that point where you need to think of a go-to question, something that you are comfortable using when speaking to someone you don't know to keep the conversation flowing, to keep it going. So this is where you get to think of things like, where are you from? Or what do you do? What do you do for work? So what's your job? Tell me about yourself. You might just say that and it sort of gives a general talk about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do for work? How did you find yourself here? Or how did you get here tonight? If you were at a restaurant and you were curious about where they'd come from, it's one of those situations where you probably don't want to get too personal with questions. But yeah, you just think about this sort of stuff. Where are you from? What do you do? How did you get here tonight? Did you find it easy enough? The place? Getting here, was that easy? You might also say, how do you know X, or how do you know so-and-so? So if one person or one company or something has brought you to this place, you might say, how did you end up here? More broadly, like who did you know that brought you here? And you could also, just say, do you work for this person? How are you related to them? How do you know them? So they tend to be the good ones for formal situations with strangers. You can also make small talk about the weather, that kind of stuff. It really comes up. It just depends on you and what you guys want to do. I thought also here that I would talk a little bit about English honorifics. English honorifics. So these are things like sir and madam, Miss or Ms, Mr, Mrs, and then mate, buddy, and dude or man as well. So, okay, sir is used for men in formal settings. And when you use sir, it elevates their status above you. So I would do this as a way of being polite, incredibly polite, and so I would use this as a way of being polite and elevating their status above me. If I wanted to do it with a woman, I would say madam. Madam or sir, it's exactly the same thing, and it elevates their status above me. So I would do this if I am working as a waiter and I'm serving an older gentleman usually, or an older lady. I would refer to them as sir or madam by default. And then if they ask me not to do it, I'll then just use mate, or, if they might even tell me their names. Miss and Ms is used for unmarried women. And so you might use this when you're in a restaurant or a shop and you're wanting to talk to the assistants there. You might say to them, excuse me, miss, or excuse me, Ms. Ms wouldn't be used like that. Ms would be used like madam, but for younger women. So if you weren't sure of their marital status, are they married, are they not married, they're still pretty young, you might use Ms in sort of formal situations where they could be a teacher, for example, or have some kind of role. This is Ms and then their surname. So Ms, I guess, is sort of like Mr. and Mrs. This would be for someone who is a male. If it's a male, a man, it's Mr. If it's a woman, it's Mrs. And it's for people who are married. At least Mrs. is for people who are married, and Mr. is used for just any man at all. And you would use it if they don't have any other professional or academic title. So if they're not a doctor, the president, in the royal family, you would just use Mr. and Mrs. for people who are married. And then we have at the end here, mate, buddy, dude, or man. So I thought I would give these a special mention because I use these quite a bit. By default, I would not use these on women. That's something that I would say honestly, by default. Unless these women were incredibly blokey and really used these to refer to me, then I might. I might also use mate or buddy with a woman if I really wanted to kind of emphasize the fact that I really just saw her as a friend. So that's me as a native. That's what I would do. However, I would use them all the time with guys. All the time. In fact, I'm probably more likely to use mate, buddy, dude, or man instead of their actual name. So I might ring someone up and be like, "Hey buddy, it's Pete. How you been? What did you want to do today? Hey mate, hey dude, hey man." I'd use all that with guys. I would probably avoid using these with strangers unless I was trying to bring that friendly atmosphere again to the conversation. So I do find myself using these on men in the restaurant where I work. I'll be like, "Yeah, no worries, mate," if I can tell that there is that friendly kind of vibe happening. So it's not the first honorific that I would use. If I didn't know the person and I thought they were my age or older, I would start with sir or madam. But if they were my age or younger, and if I could tell they were really friendly, then I would use mate, buddy, dude, or man. So, and that's just me. I just like to be friendly when I chat with people, even if they're strangers. So use it. I think too, remember, if you're learning English as a second language and you use these things incorrectly, people will either correct you or they're not, they might be offended if it was me that did it, because a native person doing it can, cause offense. If I refer to a very, very old man as buddy, it'd be a bit weird, I think, from default, if that was the first word that I used. But don't be afraid. People aren't going to get offended if they can tell that you're learning English and you're just trying to be friendly. They're not going to be offended. So now let's get over to someone that you know. So if I was seeing friends or family, how would I greet them? The standard one would be hey. Hey would be the standard way that I would greet people. Then I would probably say g'day. So hey, I would say with if someone said hello to me first, I'd probably say hey if I knew them. G'day. G'day I use quite a bit as well, but I think just off the top of my head, I find myself wanting to say hey even more, especially if it's in emails or if it's in text messages or on Facebook. I'm really likely to start a conversation with hey. You can also say things like what's up, or you can contract that down even further to sup. And with all of these, you can add mate on the end if it's a guy. And if you're a guy, you don't have to, obviously, but you can say, hey mate, g'day mate, what's up mate, sup mate. You can also say then, once we're past the initial g'day or greeting, we can say things like, how are you going? If you want to know a bit more about how they are. One thing to note here too, with a lot of these kinds of questions, Australians typically ask these to be polite, but without looking for any more information. And this gets a lot of people. I think I've had a lot of people tell me that they asked someone how they were and the person said good and that was it. Or they said, yeah, not bad, and that was it. And when in reality the person said, how are you, to actually find out how that person was and learn a bit more about them. That is just what it's like in Australian culture. If you want to dig a bit deeper, as we would say, and you want to find out a little bit more, you just have to follow it up with questions. And the funny thing is, on the other side too, if you do want to find out more about me and you just say, how's it going, or how are you, my instinct is going to be that you just want me to say, good. How are you, to respond. And so it is funny, I've met some Australians where they were like, yeah, they said, how are you? But then they wanted to know all this extra information and I didn't realize that was what they were after. So how are you going? We used that previously. You can use that here. What's been going on or what's been happening? That is starting to ask for more information. So you might say, how are you going? What's been going on? What's been happening? And that is like what's been going on in your life. What's been happening in your life. And it's me asking recently what has been happening with you. What is your latest news? What have you been doing? What have you been up to? What's been going on? What's been happening? So that is, I want to know more information about recent activities in your life. You can also just contract it down to how you've been, how you been instead of how you been going, or how you been or what you've been doing, all of that sort of stuff. You can say what's the goss, what's the news, again asking about a bit more information, what they've been up to. And you can say things like how's your day been? How's your day been? How's your week been? How's your month been? And that's just how has that period of time been for you. And so again, they could just say, yeah, good. And you? Or they'll go into a story about, what they've been up to and give you a bit more information. All right, so small talk, again, with family and friends, I would start it off with those things that we just went over. What's been going on, what you've been doing, what's been happening, what's the goss, what's the news, how you've been, how's your day been, etc. You might also say, what have we got here? You might also say what's new. So that's sort of like what's the latest news or what's the latest. You can say that. You can say, what else have we got here? I'm not going to repeat the same ones. How's your family going? You might ask about people's families. So if I caught up with my folks, for example, my parents, I would say, how's mum been? If I was seeing dad, or I would say, how's dad been? If I'd seen mum, if I'd seen friends that had mutual friends with me, I would say, how's so-and-so been? Have you seen this person recently? How's work? You can do all that sort of stuff to get into the small talk, and then just start talking about, obviously, things related to you two. So that's endless. Anyway, so I guess finishing up, we can talk about how you would say goodbye. Usually with strangers, people that I didn't know, and informal situations, I would say goodbye or bye. I might say have a good one, have a great day. And again, I would reiterate the fact that it was a pleasure to meet them. So I would be like, hey Sally, it was a pleasure to meet you. It was great to meet you. It was nice to meet you. I hope we can do this again soon. If you hope you see them again, or I'll see you at so-and-so, if you guys know now that you're going to catch up later. And then I would just say, goodbye, bye, have a good one. You might also hear people say ta-ta. Ta-ta in English ta is a funny word. You can say ta, which is kind of like long, and it means thanks, kind of like cheers, ta. And you can also say ta-ta, which is like short one, long one, ta-ta, ta-ta, to mean bye or see you. Ta-da, ta-da. With someone you will have heard a lot of these from me already, guys. Every time I finish a podcast, I say things like, catch you guys later, catch you later, catch ya, see you later, see you guys later, see ya, have a good one, see you soon, see ya soon. So we turn you into ya to sort of contract it and become a little bit more informal, so a little bit more friendly. But yeah, those are the basic ones that I would use, guys. Goodbye, bye, have a good one, have a good day, pleased to meet you, it was great meeting you, and I'll see you soon, or I'll see you when I see you, ta-ta. Informal situations, catch, see you later, see you, catch ya, see you soon, till next time. That's all the kind of stuff I would use with people that I was familiar with, that I knew. So that's it for today, guys. That's it for today's lesson. Feel free to now give me as many questions as you want. Have you been finding anything in English particularly difficult of late? Any expressions or any words or anything you want to know about tenses? Now's your time to ask. Put your comments down below and I will scroll through and see if I can find some that people have already asked. So, what options could we use to reply besides good and you, asks Diana. So, you can say things like great, good. Australians quite often say things like not bad or not too bad. So we kind of say the negative, but it's almost double, right? We're double negative, making it a double negative where we're saying not too bad. So it's kind of like, oh, so you're good. So I would use that quite a bit. I would say things like, yeah, not bad, mate. How are you? Not too bad. Not bad. Pretty good. Fine. Yeah, great. Really good. As soon as you start doing that, as soon as you start departing from good, fine, great, not too bad, not bad, As soon as you start saying, oh, actually pretty bad, or really bad, or awful, or you do the complete opposite and you say, yeah, really good, like amazing, that's when you're going to start getting people asking you more questions, like, oh, what happened? If you said, yeah, actually really bad, they're not going to just leave it at that. They'll want to know, oh, what happened? Let's talk about it. And vice versa. If you say, yeah, man, off the charts, so well, so great, they'll be like, what's so good? Why are you so happy? So the basic thing there, good and you, great and you, fine, nice, not bad, not too bad. That's the standard, and typically is the response that we'll give that sort of gets no more follow-up. You'll just switch to something else. If you depart from that and you say, really, really awful, average, as soon as you start saying it's below, not bad, people are going to ask why. And as soon as you say that it's amazing or great or phenomenal, people are going to ask why. So I hope that gives a bit of context to sort of greetings in Australian English and how we think when we sort of chat and have these interactions with people. So active guy says g'day from Nepal. And what's the difference between accept and expect for? Do you mean accept for or expect for? So accept means but for this, so not this thing. So everyone is here except another person. For instance, I was having a party with all of my family except my dad. And I think in this case you mean except for, not expect for, and I could use them both interchangeably. Everyone's here except my dad, everyone's here except for my dad. It's up to you. They both mean exactly the same thing. If you expect something, it means that you think this thing is going to happen or should happen. So you would expect to be paid after a week's work. You might expect your child to be born in the next month because your wife is 8 months pregnant. You expect the sun to rise tomorrow. It's something that should happen. Hopefully the sun rises tomorrow. Luke asks, when is this guy going to take his clothes off? Luke, you don't need to be here learning English, mate. This is one of my friends from Sydney being an idiot. What about ma'am? Peggy wants to know what ma'am means. Ma'am is sort of a contraction of madam, and they've just removed the D. So the D has just been removed from the word madam here. I'll see if I can do it in reverse. And you've got ma'am. So you might see it with an apostrophe sometimes, or you might just see it as M-A-A-M. That is the kind of thing that I think is a lot more American. So I would see that in American films where people would say, excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am. You might hear that in England as well, but I don't think Australians would really use that. We would just say madam. What else have we got here? What's the difference in pronunciation between miss and ms? Okay, so Pillar wants to know how you pronounce miss versus ms. Miss sounds like the verb to miss something. If you miss something, miss. Miss, it's that short ich sound, miss, whereas ms is often said with the Z sound at the end there, definitely. So ms, and it's a schwa, I think, off the top of my head. So we don't really pronounce any vowel there. So it's almost like how it's spelt. M-S, ms, ms. Sort of almost like an E or a U kind of sound. Ms. It's the schwa. Miss and ms. What other questions? Among women, are there expressions similar to buddy or mate? This one, they might refer to each other as girl. That's a difficult one. I'm sure there are. I'm just so not used to using them because I'm not a girl. But I think most of the time they would just use each other's names, nicknames, and they might use girl, I think. I think the main difference here is that men tend to use this stuff like buddy, guy, dude, mate, And so it feels masculine, I think, in the sort of English-speaking world. And so if women want to be a little more feminine, they avoid doing things that appear masculine. And so the ironic thing is, you'll meet women who are tough and work on, say, farms, or, you might meet a woman who's a mechanic, and she's the kind of person who might call you buddy or guy or, dude, mate, man, and that's kind of like showing you that this, she's not to be messed around with. She's a, fair income chick. She's tough. She's just like one of the blokes. And so that's when you might hear women use that. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I'd have to have a look or ask some of my female friends, but I think they would usually just use each other's names, nicknames, and probably, girl or something like that, I would imagine. But yeah, they wouldn't say things like woman or what else am I thinking? Lady or something like that. Any of those other synonyms for woman. And what else have we got here? So Lale asks, hi Pete, how do you use put up with? So put up with is one of those phrasal verbs that is not intelligible straight away. So it's not easy to work out the meaning. Put up, to put up. Obviously, literally, if I put my pen up somewhere, I'm taking it from here and I'm putting it up on the shelf, for example. I'm putting it up. But if you put up with someone or with something, I guess it's like you tolerate that thing. So I could say if I had a son or a daughter who was a very young child that was really annoying, always making a lot of noise, always screaming, getting in trouble, bringing dirt in the house, ripping their clothes, I could be like, oh my gosh, I have to put up with so much. This child is really difficult to put up with. So to tolerate, to kind of have to deal with, to put up with. So that's how I would use to put up with. And it's always to put up with someone or to put up with someone. So I'm sick of putting up with him. I have to put up with my nasty boss at work. My parents are really easy to put up with because they're lovely people. But yeah, it would usually be used in a negative kind of way. You wouldn't put up with someone who was a nice, lovely person, because instantly when you say, I need to put up with this person, it's kind of like they're doing things that are mean or annoying or difficult to deal with. And it takes a lot of energy, so you have to tolerate them, right? To put up with. How's it going, Pete? I want to know if we can use flap T to pronounce difficulty and better. So Hugo wants to know if you can use the T flap or the flap T to pronounce difficulty and better. Difficulty, better, yeah, both of those, the T in each of those is pronounced with the T flap. So instead of saying difficult, I say difficulty. And what I'm doing there, again, a lot of you will know, what I'm doing is my tongue, instead of hitting the roof of my mouth like this and then going t, it's just flicking back or flicking forward and just touching the roof of my mouth for a second. And that's why it sounds a bit more like a D. So you'll hear difficulty, ri, it's just touching the roof of my mouth. And the same with better, it's just touching the roof of my mouth, flicking back. Better. You can see my tongue there, actually. Better, ra. So I hope that makes sense. Definitely try using the T flap or the flap T when you're speaking English. I'm pretty sure this is common in England, in America. It probably depends more on your dialect in each of those countries. So for instance, you might hear people in England use the glottal stop. The glottal stop is in the throat here. Instead of them using the tongue to stop the air by going better, that kind of movement, they're using their throat to do it. And instead of saying better, they're saying better. And so it's actually at the back of the throat there that the tongue is hitting it to stop the air, and it sounds like better. So you might hear it depending on where you go, but it's common everywhere. How you know when to do this is that there's a vowel sound on one side of the T, or two T's, like in the case of better, and there's a vowel sound on the next side of the T or the two T's. So that's why you've got era, better. And the same with difficulty, even though there's an L in there, ul is a vowel sound. Ul, it's a vowel sound. And so it's difficulty, difficulty, difficulty. So that's how you know. If there's a vowel sound on either side, you can use the T flap. And it happens within words or between words. If a word starts with a T, actually, if a word starts with a T, you would usually say it. But if a word ends with a T and the next word starts with a vowel sound, that's when you would use the T flap. So what other questions have we got here? Hugo's got another one. Do these two sentences mean the same order of action? I ate, then he came. I had eaten before he came. Yep, I ate, then he came. So in the first sentence there, you've used the simple past, ate and came. And the thing that gives me context as to the order, I ate, then he came, the word then. That means that I did this, then this happened. So based on that, you can use the simple past. If you just said I ate and he came, I wouldn't know which happened first. In the second sentence here, you've used had eaten. So what's that? The past perfect tense. Had eaten before he came. I had eaten before he came. Again, before makes it easy. You know what order it is because you've used I did something before another thing. But if you said something like I had eaten and he came, that tells me instantly I had eaten. So as in that happened first and he came, that happened second. So that's where the tenses here give me a perfect understanding of which happened first. Had eaten happened first, came happened after that, and both of these things happened in the past. So I hope that makes sense. But keep at it, guys. Keep at it. When to say any time when someone says thank you. So active guy, you and Hugo, active guy, you guys have always got all these questions at the end here. You don't give anyone else a shot. When to say any time. I think I would say this when someone says thank you, particularly if they say thank you for a favor that you've done them, where you've gone out of your way to help them. So imagine that I met someone in the street who dropped their shopping and they needed help from, cleaning up all their shopping. If I helped them and then afterwards they said, oh, thank you so much for helping me clean up all my shopping on the ground here, I could say anytime, as in I would do this anytime. It's not a problem. She's all good. She's apples. It was a pleasure anytime. So it's normally when you've gone out of your way, when it's an inconvenience, but you've helped someone nonetheless. If they say thank you for that, that's when you can say anytime, because it just means that you would help them anytime. And you can use that anywhere. That's a really good one to use, and something I find myself saying all the time. Anytime, guys, anytime. So at the end here, when you guys say, thanks, Pete, for all the English advice, thanks for answering our questions, I can say anytime, because it was a pleasure and I would do it anytime. What other questions have we got here? Bum, 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 bum. All right. What? How to speak English fast like Benedict Cumberbatch on Sherlock? This one is practice. If you want to learn to speak fast, you've got to learn to speak slow first. And this is something that my jiu-jitsu coach always says to me when we're learning new techniques. If you can't do it slowly, you can't do it quickly. If you can't do it slow, you can't do it fast. So I would say that if you want to speak really quickly, the thing is that you need to be able to pronounce the words as a native would, so that they understand what's happening when you start speaking really fast. So you need to understand connected speech as well as the pronunciation, or you may confuse people if you mispronounce things or contract things in a not so common way. The good thing is, if you learn to say it slowly and someone gets confused, you can always slow down, repeat yourself, and give them a chance to understand, or you can use different words to get around the problem there, the misunderstanding there. I would either slow down and say the thing again. If I was saying something like, how's your day been going, mate? I hope you've been really well. If someone looked at me like, what did he just say? I might say, how's your day been? I hope you've been really well. So I can say it slowly, or I might just use a different phrasing like, oh, how are you? Have you been good? Those are the two tools I would use if there's misunderstanding when speaking quickly. But the basic idea is learn to say it slowly first, really pay attention to connected speech. So when you're listening to me in podcasts and you hear me talk about the connected speech stuff in the phrases that we go over in the listen and repeat episodes, really pay attention and say it slowly and then say it fast. And you just have to keep sort of repeating so that it becomes smooth and effortless and you can speak more quickly. So give it a go and let me know how you go, mate. All right, Lala asks, can you pronounce sweater, butter, please? So sweater and butter, both of those, like difficulty and better before, have the T flap. So I would say sweater and butter. So it almost sounds like a D sound there. That's the T flap. Sweater, I wouldn't really use in Australian English. This is an interesting point to make. I think Americans use a sweater to refer to what we would refer to as a jumper. So although this jumper is a hoodie, meaning that it has a hood on it, I can put it over my head, although it's going to play with the microphone too much. This is a hoodie. I would refer to this as also being a jumper. So almost like someone who jumps, Jumper, jumper, that's how I would refer to this. Americans would probably call it a sweater. I wouldn't use that, but I know what it is because I watch a lot of American TV. What else have we got here? Deanna asks, excuse me guys, when you say I'm glad, can you say I'm really glad, I'm very glad, and what other options do you have to say the same thing in a particular sort of formal context? I'm glad, you can definitely say that. I think another common one, a collocation you're going to hear all the time is I'm glad to hear that, or I'm glad to see that. You can also say I'm glad to read that if it's something that you've read. I'm really glad to have read that, to read that. I'm really glad to see that, to have seen that, depending on the tense you want to use. I'm really glad. I'm very glad. You could definitely say that. All of those would be fine. I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that. It's all fine. Other options, you might just say something like, it's great to hear that, or that's awesome. Ripper, beauty, if you wanted to be a bit more Australian and use a bit of slang, you might say, oh, that's fantastic, that's phenomenal, I'm glad to hear that. So again, it's any of those adjectives that describe something as being good, awesome, brilliant, ripper, beauty. So I hope that helps. What else have we got here? What is the best way for memorizing new words, especially when you have to deal with many of them? So this one comes from Noman. Noman, get on YouTube and watch my Anki videos. A-N-K-I. In fact, I'm going to write this down for you guys. I need to do a course on this in the future, but Anki is a free program that you guys can use. It's called A-N-K-I. You can download it onto Mac and also onto PC. It works for either computer. It's free. It's absolutely brilliant. To give you a quick sort of down low or explanation as to what it does, and I'll even show you. So we'll use the previous one from Deanna. I am something to hear, and then that. So for instance, if I was wanting to learn that last phrase that we went over, where's my finger? I'm glad to hear that. If I want to learn the word glad, because previously I didn't know what it was, I would use Anki, which is a flashcard program, meaning that you have a card on one side with a phrase that you create, that you put into the program, and then on the other side you'll have the answer. So the good thing about this is that, so you'll have this on one side, and then on the other side you would have the answer with glad in there. Forgive my bad handwriting. The reason this is so powerful is because Anki uses an algorithm to put all the difficult words in right up the front. What am I doing? Right up the front, where you have to see them again and again and again. So if these words are really difficult, if we imagine the number of cards that you have to review and time, so this is time, and this line up here, I'm doing this backwards, is the number of cards that you have to review. So imagine, each day you've got 50 cards that you have to review with all the words you find difficult. If you use Anki, the algorithm in the program puts all the hard ones here so that you have to review them more often until you learn those words, and it puts all the easy ones out here. So this might be a month away, where all the easy words are a month away and all the hard words are today, tomorrow, this week. So it's a really good program for that, because you can find any words that you want, any phrases you want, any grammatical patterns that you want, and you can put them into this program, tailor it to what you need to learn, and it'll happen so fast. It'll happen. I used it for French, and my French just went, and I was just constantly remembering really complicated words that I otherwise wouldn't have remembered. And this is the important thing, because memory is like this. If you think about learning a word, you see it once again. So imagine you see it once, this one time here, and it drops off. It drops off like that. If you see it again soon, it drops off at a less steep curve. And then if you see it again after that, it drops off even slower again. So that's why you have to see words multiple times and over a really good sort of close period of time initially, and then less often as you go out. But that's why you need to learn a word more than once, because your brain is actually really efficient at forgetting everything that it doesn't need to remember. And if you don't keep seeing the thing you want to remember, your brain assumes this isn't important. So I hope that helps. Anki, check it out. It's brilliant. Why do Australians pronounce dance and chance like Americans while can't and aren't like Brits? Frankie wants to know. That's a good question. I don't know the exact answer. The interesting thing is, I think in Australia you have a split. I think it's called the trap bath split. I'm not sure why it's called the trap bath split, but I have heard that referring to this, I believe, where people in certain areas refer to dance and chance as dance and chance, and then in other places they'll say dance and chance, which is the same vowel sound as can't and aren't. So you actually have this weird thing happening in Australian English where both are present. Plant, plant. France, France. Can't you wouldn't do, you would always say can't and aren't. But yeah, with words like A-N-C, E and A-N-T, you might hear ant or aren't, like plant, plant, France, France, etc. in Australia. I'm not 100% sure why that's the case, but it is a weird kind of linguistic thing that's happening in Australian English. So just learn both pronunciations. An interesting thing there for can't, we can get rid of the T on that, and you'll hear people quite often say can't. And so what's happening there is my tongue is actually touching the roof of my mouth, and I'm turning the T into what we call a stop consonant. So you might have noticed that in a lot of words in English, the last consonant on the word is quite often muted. We don't really say it, like stop. I won't say stop, I say stop, or ant instead of ant, or aunt instead of aunt. The way that I'm doing that, and the same for can't and can't, I'm just touching the roof of my mouth with my tongue and stopping the air. Can't, instantly. So that's how it's happening in my mouth. And this is how we tell the difference between the negative, can't, and the positive, can. So I've had that question a few times now when I've told people, oh, just say can't as can't and can as can. no T, and they'll be like, how can you tell the difference? It's the vowel sound, it's the vowel. So the first one, can, and the second one, can't. And that's the same vowel sound in the first one as plan, dance, chance, it's that sound. In the second one, it sounds like car, or bar, or star, and air. I hope that helps. What is the difference between die of, die from, die by? If you die of something or you die from something, that is that, on the top of my head, it would be like a disease, or he died of, cancer. He died from cancer. I would use those two interchangeably. Die of something, die from something. It's just that thing caused you to die that way. If you said die by, I think it's kind of the same. It's usually, it feels like it's referring more to the exact method of how you died. So, for instance, he died by bleeding out. So that's the idea of, you've had an artery or a vein cut and you're bleeding out of your body. You die by bleeding out, so by doing that thing. You probably could just say he died from bleeding out as well. I don't think most natives would notice. They would hear them both and be like, yeah, okay, I get what you mean. So you can use any in that example, but die of, die from, and die by, it's just referring to the thing that caused whoever it is to die. Let's have another look. So Ali wants to know, it's my first time watching your channel online. Really amazing. Thanks, dude. My question is about the word drama. Where can we replace problem with drama? Okay, so this, the TV shows that have a lot of drama, they have a lot of drama, meaning there are always problems on the show. Problems between people, issues between people. So not something like, say, a problem with my computer. I wouldn't refer to that as a drama. Although you probably could if it escalated and became like drama in the TV show or on the theatre sort of scene. If it was really dramatic, if there was a big problem as a result of this thing, I could refer to it as a drama. But I think it would usually be between people without sort of going in and researching it, just off the top of my head. So I could say, like, if there was a fight in my family at the moment, I probably wouldn't say problem with my family. That would be more like nothing interrelationary, or like not interpersonal. A drama is like there's a fight or something going on where people are arguing and there's some kind of argumentative problem where people are having a dispute about something. So my dad and my mum could be fighting, that's drama. If my dad and my mum had a problem, I guess you could probably use it the same way, but that would sort of be referring more to the specific problem that was there. So, but yeah, I would use it for that. Interpersonal kind of relationship issues, whether with your girlfriend, with people at work. If it's a big deal, if it's a problem, then I would use drama. And you can also hear people say things like no drama. No dramas, no drama, for no worries, no problem, all good in Australian English. That's a common one. So yeah, I hope that helps, mate. Feeling difficulty in using and understanding phrasal verbs. Aaron wants to know what to do to make using and understanding phrasal verbs easier. So this is literally one of those cases where you just have to get out there and start using them. I would start by also trying to focus on ones that, I guess I don't know the proper term for them without looking it up, but I would call them regular phrasal verbs where they make sense literally. So regular phrasal verbs like I go up, he comes down, we go out, they come in. I would understand what's happening with the prepositions in those cases. Why are we using up? Why are we using down? Why are we using around? Why are we using in versus out? Once you get an idea in your head of what those prepositions mean, you know that The verb is just describing how that thing is happening. So are they walking around? Are they running around? Are they running over? Are they running up? Are they running down? Are they walking around? Are they going, coming? You can switch in and out the preposition based on the direction sort of thing that you wanted to talk about. Around, up, down, in, out. And then you can change the verb based on the way that you want to describe that movement happening. So the regular ones are really easy to learn, because once you work out, there's 50 or so common verbs that go with these prepositions. I understand all these verbs. I understand these prepositions. Now I just put them together when I want to describe an action happening and how it's happening with a sort of movement as well. So like running in, running up. The difficulty comes with the irregular ones. And I know, like we went over earlier, to put up with. Ones like that are a real pain in the butt to put up with, to tolerate, and to learn. You just have to start learning them and get used to the patterns. So, you know, I have to put up with him, he's putting up with me. Once you get a better understanding of where the subject and object, you know, me and him, are placed around those phrasal verbs, it'll just come naturally. And ironically, you guys are probably going to have an easier time of learning phrasal verbs than I did, because it took me years and years and years and years and years to learn phrasal verbs without any sort of systematic approach where I tried to learn the exact, you know, what's the concept or the pattern here. I just had to learn through trial and error as a kid for a long time. So keep at it, just find a list and start using them. Like we were talking about with Anki and memory, you need to be using them as much as possible. You need to have them come to mind by seeing them, by reading them, by watching them on TV, by hearing them. You just need to have them in and around your mind a lot to begin with, and then it'll get easier as you learn the patterns and as you learn the irregular ones. So just keep at it and keep using them, mate. I hope that helps. Mirill asks, how can I know if an expression should be used in a formal, informal situation? I guess this one you need to just obviously ask someone if you're unsure. So obviously you can ask someone if you can talk to someone in an informal situation, then you know you can pretty much ask them anything with regards to expressions used in English. So just ask a friend, a family member who speaks English. I mean, you could even ask a stranger if you flat out just said, look, I'm learning English at the moment and I've just heard this expression. I really need help from a native speaker. Can you tell me what it means? It could be the most offensive thing in the world, and I think the average Australian isn't going to be offended unless they can tell that you are making a joke, you know, or pointing fun at them by doing this. So if you're genuine and you're honest, just ask. People will tell you. And I think too, the good thing is, Meryl, that being someone who's learning a foreign language that isn't your native language, if you do happen to use something formal in an informal situation, which isn't that bad, someone will tell you. They'll be like, yeah, don't call me sir, I'm a friend, just call me mate. And vice versa, if you use something informally in a formal situation, so you call your boss mate, and he's like, yeah, actually better to call me sir, they'll let you know. They're not just going to fire you or, you know, suddenly get angry. They'll let you know. What else have we got here? I'm just going to check the time, guys. I'm going to have to bail after this next question because I've got a lesson. When to use the verb eat, sleep, give, and when to use past participle eaten, given after have. You would never use... So do you mean when to use the verbs eat and sleep and give and then the past participles after have? Because you would never say have, eat, have, sleep, have, give. You would always say have eaten, have given, have slept. So this one... It just depends on the context. There's probably an infinite number of reasons why you would use have done versus did. But most of the time you start using more complicated past tenses when you're trying to establish that something happened before something else or vice versa. So I would just use ate, slept and gave if it's just something that happened in the past. I would use eat, sleep, and give if it's in the present, if it's in the present, or if it is an infinitive verb. And then I would start using have eaten, have given, have done, have slept if I was starting to talk about more complicated things that have happened in the past and I'm wanting to get the times that they happen sort of under control. So I hope that helps, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Remember, just give it a like, give it a share if you enjoyed this lesson, guys. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by signing up on Patreon to give anything from $1 a month. Anything more, totally up to you guys, but it's your way of supporting the channel if you want to see more content come out. And if you want weekly classes emailed to you, you can now join the Aussie English Classroom when you sign up to be a member on the website page. It's $1 to try it for your first month, just $1. That's 4 lessons over 4 weeks that you will get, and they have things like pronunciation exercises, grammar, slang, substitution exercises to teach you phrasal verbs, as well as a transcript and an MP3. So you can listen anywhere, anytime, and you can do all this extra stuff anywhere, anytime to keep learning English. So give it a go. Again, this supports me and helps me do more. And also jump over to the virtual classroom, the Facebook group, if you haven't already. Give it a thumbs up, get in there and be active. I'm releasing daily videos to get people talking. So I'll ask you to do a challenge to create a minute video and talk about the question or the challenge of the day, post it live. And that's also where Chris and the other community members are helping everyone to transcribe several of the episodes that I release on the podcast. So I'm doing this each week where I release a few episodes and they need to be transcribed by the community, by you guys. So it's an extra way for you to learn English. Anyway, I've got to go, guys. I've got a jet. I've got to bail. I hope you had a good time and I'll chat to you soon. Peace out.